Hey, this is an audio test. Can you hear me? Not on the thing. Okay. Okay, so for all the two people on right now, we'll be starting in a few minutes. Okay, everyone, we're going to start in about 2 minutes. All right, guys, I think we're ready to go. Okay, so this is the live stream of the Portland Sitecore user group featuring the Sitecore Sidekick made by me, Jeff Darchuk. So I'm Jeff Darchuk. I'm a senior software engineer at ConnectiveDX in Portland, Oregon, USA. And I'm a Sitecore MVP as of 2016. I've had about 5 years of Sitecore, and there's my Twitter and Slack information if anybody has questions about this offline. So what makes a Sidekick app? Each Sidekick app is an Angular JS uh, directive. And so what that enables us to do is it enables us to dynamically generate a custom piece of markup and uh, have the Sidekick app manage it for us. And to do that, it implements a special HTTP handler that it uses to wire up all the routing for the app. And so, for example, you'll probably need a lot of services for a certain app, such as getting item data or, say, triggering publishing or something like that. It also requires an icon, a name, and a custom Windows style. All of these it utilizes to open the Sitecore Sidekick in a frame inside of Sitecore itself, and we'll see that in a little bit. Another one of the main features of the overall Sitecore Sidekick is that each app has its own individual permissions based on Sitecore permissions. So you can limit the access to a particular app by role, user, or by admin only. And the idea, the main driving point behind these apps is to focus on a microservices architecture. So lots of chatting with Sitecore to get data in real time in kind of a really snappy way. And each app is isolated from each other app, so they can't communicate with each other and they live in their own isolated environment. What version of Angular? I would have to look it up. It's something that's a little bit older, but it shouldn't impact anything that is customer facing because it only lives in the Sitecore interface itself. So how does it work within Sitecore? The Sitecore app builds itself a route for the very interesting route of /scs/ses.scs. And it aggregates together all of the custom JavaScript from all the apps to inject it into the desktop and content editor view within Sitecore. And the JavaScript that is injected into Sitecore will open up a modal in a Sitecore version specific way. So for example, for Sitecore 7, it opens it up in its own proprietary modal because back then it was a little bit harder to do this sort of thing. In Sitecore 8, they provided an ability to open an iframe within the Sitecore desktop and content editor context, which made it really easy to have the Sidekick open up in a native window within Sitecore. And finally, just installing the module will add a Sitecore Sidekick icon into the desktop menu. So that would be the main way that you'd be able to access it. Or of course, in red I have up here, Shift-Alt-S will open the Sidekick. So good keyboard shortcut to remember if you have this app. So Content Migrator, before we get into the architectural pieces of it, let's go and do a demo. So before I have that open, let's open it up using our button. Can anyone guess my password? C. It's C. That's right, Cam. It's C. Okay, so this is the Content Migrator. It's built to be read from the top down. The first step that you need to do is you need to select a server to pull content from. So in my demo here, I have 3 different servers to select from, one of which is this server itself. This one is a Sitecore 8.0 install. And so for this demo, I'm going to grab stuff from this Sitecore 8.2 instance that I just built a couple days ago using Sitecore Sim. Once you have that selected, it pulls down the content tree from the selected server. So you can get drill down to whatever particular item that you want. For this demo, I have a quite ridiculously large amount of data that I put under this derp node. So we'll focus on that. So there's a lot of different options. I'll get into that later, but I want to get this kicked off first because it's going to take a little bit of time. So I'll kick that off. Anytime you're about to actually do a pull, it'll pop up a modal asking you if you're sure, just in case someone accidentally clicks a button. So now you're seeing a live stream of the content coming over into this Sitecore 8.0 instance. And you'll see notifications of what the root node was, what server it came from, as well as this idea of the data queue. And I'll get into that a little bit more in the future when I start talking about the architectural design of this module. And as you can see, it's live streaming the inserted items that the Sidekick is putting in, and you can view them as they're coming in. And in fact, if you wanted to, you could see what exactly this item is. If you click it, it will open it up in a light box directly up to all the way down here. So if you're interested in a particular item, wonder why that came or what it is, you can click it there without losing your context. So I'm going to let this go for a little bit, but I want to talk about the architectural concepts behind this. And so what it starts with is you have a server that wants content. And what the server that wants content does is it specifies the server that it wants content from. As soon as it triggers a synchronization event, it kicks off a series of threads that their only job is to go and get serialized data from the content server that has the content that you want. And the serialization is done using Rainbow, which may sound familiar if you're using Unicorn, because it's the same serialization format. So what these threads do is they pull data from the content in serialized format, inject it into a concurrent queue, then another set of threads read from the queue concurrently and install back into Sitecore. And so what this allows us to do is, since the retrieval of data from the remote server is faster than the installation of the data into your server, it allows us to essentially eliminate the cost of the over-wire transmission of the content, within reason, of course. If you are pulling from China, you might see otherwise. But under most circumstances that I've seen, the queue will grow faster than it's being installed. And I believe we will see that here. So you can see the queue, the item data queue, has reached its maximum. I don't believe it's growing anymore. So at this point, the retrieval of the remote data is complete. And the only thing that's processing here is the threads that are actually installing the data into Sitecore itself. And so if you wanted to return back to the migrator home to perform another synchronization, you might think that you lost that information, but you might notice this new area down here at the bottom that's labeled currently running operations. That is a representation of all of the currently running operations that are going right now. And if you click, you can enter back into that context where you see the same operation we were seeing before. And so say, for example, I want to grab this example site node now. I really want that one. So there's this preview button. If you click that, it will show you an estimation of what actions the content migrator will take to get these items into the local environment. So you can see it's estimating that there's going to be 129 inserts for this data because none of it exists locally right now, which makes sense since it's a brand new sim environment. The only thing that I installed was templates. So if you scroll back up to the top, you'll see this kind of off red button, execute this operation. If I click that, it'll once again warn me that this is going to change the current environment. If I click OK, you can see just like we saw before, only this one is far fewer items completed quickly. Once the operation is complete, you can see a readout of the number of total items that were modified, as well as an elapsed time and a date completed. So this also works with media library items, of course. Oh, and before I get onto that, you can see that now that this operation is completed, it's fallen into this bucket called completed operations. So if I click that, it'll show me the statistics from this operation. All of these operation statistics will persist through app pool recycle. So as soon as the app pool recycles, they'll disappear out of memory. But up until that point, you'll be able to see them. So anybody who has access to this application can come in here and view this operation, as well as cancel this operation. So if someone came in here and realized, oh, what's this person doing? They shouldn't be doing this. They can cancel it, and it will immediately stop and give you a reading for the number of items that have actually been moved and the time that it took. So then it falls into a bucket of completed operation, or canceled operations, I'm sorry. But say, for example, we actually did want that item, and clicking cancel was a mistake. We can repull it. And since all of the items are basically equivalent to the source at this point, or a lot of the items, I should say, it can zip through those pretty quickly and get back up to where it was, where the items are different or inserts are needed. Right now, the question was how many concurrent threads is this using? For retrieval from the server, right now it's using 3. For installation, it's using 2. The reason so little is because IIS only has a limited number of threads that it can use. So if you want to run multiple concurrent operations, it's a good idea to keep it a little bit low. So for this demo, since I'm running concurrent operations, I made it a little bit lower than would probably be optimal. So aside from what we've seen so far, you can see some cases like the media library, and this is completely stock Sitecore 8.2 media library versus the stock 8.0 media library. So you can see they added a few images for personas, I'm guessing, and of course the all-important Windows Phone, which, you know, I'm probably the only one in the world who still uses it. So then we can execute this operation because we really like those images from the 8.2 instance. See, this is good. There's a couple errors here, and so this will let me demo what happens when an error happens. So we have, pardon me, we have some errors here. They are just dumped out the entire stack trace pre, so it looks like I have some database deadlocking, which will happen from time to time. This Apple mouse is confusing me. So if we want to run that again, say, I'm not sure if that entirely worked, we can try it again. And oh, sure enough, this time, no errors. Everything was updated appropriately. And the all-important Windows Phone image is now in our Sitecore 8.0 install. So another thing you can expect is there are some cases where, such as the media control or the marketing control panel, where lots of things have changed that maybe if you move the 8.2 marketing control center to 8.0, it's not going to work. So let's see what happens when we try to execute this operation. So we can see lots of different pieces of information coming through. We have some updates, some inserts, some errors, and you notice that it's stalled. After a certain threshold of errors, the process will stop, assuming that there has been some very important thing that has been missed. And in this case, Rainbow is reporting to us that there are fields that are not present in the definition template, as well as this error up here, which I believe is saying that the template doesn't exist. And so all of these errors are completely reported. So if anything happens, you'll know about it and you'll be able to see it. And in fact, if say I'm a content author who's performing this migration, I can alert somebody who might be more of IT affiliation to take a look and see exactly what happened. So the options that the content migrator provides are pretty important, so I'm going to go through them now. The top checkbox here, migrate all children of the selected item, that one triggers whether you recursively take all nodes underneath the current node or just the single node. Overwrite all existing content with new content from the server. That one is good if you have, say, a development environment that you have some content that you've been working on you don't want to lose, but you also want to get new content from production. You can uncheck this box, and it will make it so that it only does inserts, not updates. This checkbox, if parent doesn't exist locally, add that too. So if you've selected a node from the remote server that doesn't have a parent that exists locally, it will track down the parent, the closest parent, and install all the way up to that point. And the last one, kind of a cool optional feature, is make the local content tree mirror the remote content tree. You would tick that if you wanted the entire environment to match production. So say, hypothetically, you have a QA instance that your client would like to keep synchronized with production. You would likely want to do a complete content mirror onto that environment so that, or periodically, so that it would retain kind of a purity, if you will. And so this is the only option that will actually allow the content migrator to perform deletes, because effectively what this does is it deletes all items that are local that don't exist on the remote server. And when I say delete, I mean recycle. It dumps it in the Sitecore recycle bin. All right, so moving on. Oh, demo. Cracks me up. Anyway, so the next app focus that I want to focus on is the audit logger. And this is an app within Sitecore to track events within Sitecore. It utilizes an entirely separate Lucene index that's not managed by Sitecore. So it's not one of the Sitecore indexes. It's completely separate and completely owned by this app. It uses d3.js to graphically display the data. It can be set up to track any event within Sitecore, or even with a little bit of developer help, it will allow you to custom track events with a logger singleton. Oops. And it allows several different layers of filtering. There's a content filter. Each time an event happens, the main item that is involved in that event will basically dump its content into the index that will become searchable, and also with autocomplete. There is a user filter, so you can filter events based on user, so which events were triggered by which user. There's an item filter, which you can filter events based on a particular item. So if you have, say, a content author who wants to know what happened to this item, they don't know why it's looking the way it did, you have history of what happened to that item, as well as event filtering, where you can filter by the particular event that caused it. So demo time. So for this one, I'll switch over to my 8.2 instance. And once again, guess my password. Yes, it's D in this one. How did you know? All right, so this is a graphical display of what's been going on this server for the past 3 days. So as you can see, there is a lot of green. Might be a little hard to see the color, but green means item was created. So you can see just visually by inspecting this graph that recently there's been a lot of creates. And you might wonder why that happened. So you can click View Details. And it will give you a timestamp oriented list of all the events that have happened. And so we go down here, we can see, if you can see the color, all of these are green, so we can click See Details. It will pop open a little informational pane. And you can see in this particular instance, the database is web. So in fact, these ones were created when a publish happened. And this one, the purple one, is a notification for a publish was initiated, which makes sense. Publish initiated actually means publish completed, where you can see, just like you'd see in Sitecore, the statistics for that publish. And this one would be particularly useful if you had someone who maybe forgot if they had published, or maybe published if they didn't. There would be a representation of exactly what happened. So some of the filtering we can do, say the graph isn't very interesting because the items created was just so huge. So if we drop that filter, you can see that most of the items are item was saved events. So if we drop that one down, you can see each time you untick a filter, it will redraw the graph to better fit within the confines. Now, there's been lots of item renames and item deletes, as well as a couple publishes and moves. And so now let's take our home node and create a saved event. So let's say we don't like the word customer, so we're going to remove it a couple of times. And here we need another sentence and a lot of exclamation points. So now that I've saved that, go back here and retrigger. And what you'll see is the event is probably not in here yet. Ooh, it would help if I had saved events filtered. Okay, actually, yep, it made it here. There's a little delay in the actual optimization of the Lucene index. So what that correlates to is that if you, say, have a huge bulk import of data, say using the content migrator, if you're using the event disabler, or if you're not using the event disabler, it would keep kicking an optimization task. And if you're not familiar with Lucene, you can add items extremely quickly, but what actually causes trouble is when you run the optimization subroutine. And the optimization subroutine is what basically makes the item or the document in Lucene queryable. So if we take a look at our details now, we can see a HTML diff of exactly what changed to this item. You can see the two representations of customer that were deleted, as well as in green here, it is awesome what we added. So let's go through a couple other of these filters. So this content filter, like I was saying earlier, each time an event is triggered, it aggregates all the content associated with that item. So that makes it so that uh, it powers this autocomplete that will try to finish. It gives you a estimated number of items that contain this word. So say content, for example. If we view the details, we can see that there are approximately that number in there. So if you have a particular keyword that's very important to you, say government regulations or something like that, you can identify changes that happen to content that use that keyword, as well as open up an item tree, select the item you want to focus on. And if you'll remember, we just made our save event to that one just a few minutes ago. So you can see relatively few events have happened to this item. The one on top being the one that we just saw. And the last one being a user filter, where you can pick a specific user and see events that that person has caused. So let's see what the Sitecore admin, this guy behind the screen right now, has done. So this would be all of the events that I have directly triggered. So. The question is what is it hooking to? And the answer is it is the event. So if the event disabler is active, it will ignore that sort of thing. So like, for example, all of our content migration was done using the event disabler. So no logging happened for those operations for the benefit of speed. So the third app that the Sidekick ships with is the editor context. And this one is the smallest of the three, but it's effectively an engine to drive shortcuts within Sitecore. And there are three separate categories of shortcuts, one being content editor items, another being developer master database items, another being developer core database items. It also comes with an item history engine, and all links open in light boxes to preserve your current Sitecore context. So if you return home and open up the editing context, you can see the three sections that I mentioned earlier: the editor locations, the core locations, as well as the master locations. So let's open up the content node. You can see that it opens up in a light box. So this would be if your content authors have a particular location that they commonly have to navigate to. They'll be able to open this up and with a single click navigate to that item in a light box so it doesn't disrupt where they currently are in the environment. So more importantly for me as a developer, there are common core database locations. So if you remember, we have our environment opened up in the master database. We can utilize the editing context to open a window into the custom experience buttons area. If, say, you just built a rendering, you want to add a button to it, it's a very convenient way, more convenient than switching databases down here with the database switcher, which, as most people who've used Sitecore would know, completely erases your current session on the master database, as well as a subset of core databases that I myself have determined commonly used, as well as master database locations like rules, workflow languages, validation, and analytics. All of these items are completely configurable. So if you don't like one, you can remove it. If you think there's one that I forgot, you can add it, as well as the common editor locations. Right now, just the content the main content node, that's not very exciting. So that basically requires the content authors to have built something out in the site. And so the end result is, I hope that developers won't have to switch to the core database anymore. So demo. Woohoo. All right, well, that's all three of the apps. I will take some questions if anybody has them. Oh, yep. Is it on? There you go. Working on the mic.
Okay, we're good.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Thank you. You mentioned that if a parent item is missing, it will track it down and bring it over as well.
Mm-hmm.
Does it let you put your content that you're bringing over to somewhere else?
No, there's the only thing that this tool is capable of doing is pulling content, not pushing content. So in order to pull content to a separate environment, you'd have to log into that environment and perform a pull to that environment.
Right, but my question was more about not so much the environment, but the item. Say I wanted to put it under a different node. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's no way to do that. It effectively takes the content and installs it locally. You would then have to perform
Move
a
it
move
yourself.
operation.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And if there's any questions from the online people watching, you can chat it in the box.
How do you get it and install it?
You can use a NuGet package, or there's also a Sitecore package that you can install with. Either way will work. You can find the package on the marketplace, and the NuGet feed, just search Sitecore Sidekick. It'll show up in the main NuGet feed.
Okay, I have a question from online. Alexander is asking, there was something about microservices in the first bit. He was wondering if you could give some details.
Absolutely. The technology that drives all three of these apps are reliant heavily on microservices. So being an Angular JS platform, it lends itself very well to microservices. So if you are to look at the network tab in Chrome, you'll see that each of these apps are being relatively chatty with the backend. And that's what enables us to get a very snappy interface that is extremely responsive. And yeah, hopefully that answered your question.
Alexander, did that work for you? Did you have a follow-on question at all? Oh, so it's like I'm predicting the future now. That's awesome.
There is a delay.
I love it. Buy into plastics; they're huge. Oh, sorry.
So the next question is can you run this independently of Sitecore?
No, it requires to be run in the context of Sitecore. So unlike TDS and Razzle, it requires a Sitecore instance to run.
And Alexander, to answer your follow-on question, yes, all the services are in the same Sitecore instance.
Yes, that is correct.
Do you have to use Unicorn to use this?
No, it's while it uses the same serialization library as Unicorn, it is completely separate from Unicorn. It does not take it as a dependency.
Alexander wants to ask, what about EKL or Banana for the audit log?
I'm not sure what those are.
open source, so yes.
Yeah, it is open source, so if there's any enhancements or improvements, I'm definitely wide open to them. It's on GitHub. You can find me on GitHub.
He says that one of those uses Solr instead of Elasticsearch. Next question, what are your future features plans?
I'm not exactly sure what future apps. The pathway is wide open, so basically my idea now is anything I can think of to go in here, I'll add it as an add-on package to the basic 3. So I've been kicking around ideas of having Lucene management, not Lucene necessarily, but search index management, as well as analytics tools that might streamline some of the XDB features that maybe not a lot of people use because they're too time consuming. Really, it's anything that you want to be extraordinarily responsive is fair game.
Do we have any more questions online or in the room? All right, so it is available through GitHub, and you have blogged about it on your blog, which is at
Yep, jeffdarchuk.com.
jeffdarchuk.com. So if you look at the right below the video is how his last name is spelled. There is no second C. Even though you really want to put a second C in there, there really isn't one.
That's correct.
All right, cool. All right, well, thank you guys for joining us online. We are going to, we will be streaming next month. Olga is actually doing a presentation for us next month. And we won't stream in December, but we're planning to start streaming again in January. So thanks for joining us and have a great evening.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to watch my presentation.
Sweet. Well, thank you for answering questions because I was out of my depth.